Bitcoin dips below 32K as the Fed hike bets rise. So basically, people are predicting that the Fed is going to be raising interest rates. They think this is going to happen at the end of the year into end of 2022, I believe, into the start of 2023. And because of these bets, people are saying that that's why Bitcoin has dipped. It's an interesting idea that I want to kind of throw to the group, see if you agree with this as being the reason why Bitcoin has dipped, because we actually haven't seen gold do the same thing. And usually if this was something that was going to affect the markets, you would see this in other assets that behave similarly to the way that we are saying Bitcoin behaves. We're saying that it's a store of value. We're saying gold's a store of value, except gold has held its value in this. So it's kind of interesting to see what's going on there. Also interesting to think about the Fed raising interest rates. I would love thoughts from the group about what this all means. Christina, I'm going to throw it to you to start off with. What does this drop in price mean to you, and what does this potential raising of interest rates mean?
Yeah, I mean, on the topic of Bitcoin dropping in value, I've been thinking about this ever since the news came that inflation is at its highest point in 13 years, and how Bitcoin even then didn't really respond positively in price, even though so many people think of it and toot it as this hedge against inflation. I feel like the narrative around Bitcoin as a safe haven asset is not quite, maybe it's not as strong as we think or as widely held by professional investors as the crypto community thought, given its reaction to not just today's news, but also, yeah, yesterday's news with inflation being at all-time highs. And then on the topic of interest rates potentially going up at the end of the year, I thought it was interesting that Jerome Powell's statements today were super vague. He talked about, in the longer term, it's okay if we keep inflation moderately higher than 2%, and that inflation can continue will average out over the long term back to 2%. And in my head, I kept thinking, well, any spikes in inflation, if you average it out and look far enough ahead, are going
Right.
to trend back down. So I was like, these statements are very concerning to me because they don't address the issue of rising inflation today, and it sugarcoats the issue. Instead of really thinking about, will the economy naturally start to cool down without some kind of intervention? We know that the markets are more of a boom and bust cycle, not really like a calm downward trend ever. So those were definitely like some concerns of mine when I was thinking about, there wasn't really much direction of, we are going to do this, we are going to raise interest rates at the end of 2021. It was more like, well, let's start to think about this more of the longer term. And it really reaffirmed to me that I think the Fed is admitting that it's kind of powerless right now to do anything about this inflation going out of control.
Yeah, it's such a good point about the adjustable, average rate of inflation. When he first announced that, I believe it was the start of this year, and everyone was kind of like, what does that mean? Because he, as you said, he never set a time period over which this would be averaged. So it's such a vacuous statement. And just I just wanted to point out, it's end of 2022 that they said that people are predicting that they might raise rates again. The Fed hasn't actually confirmed or denied. This is just what the market is thinking is most likely to happen. Will, I'm going to throw this to you. What's the future of Bitcoin look like if this is no longer considered to be an inflationary hedge?
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to echo what Christine said. I think that was very well said, and just echo her thoughts there. I think like in general, like you said a second ago, Naomi, we're asking about like one oligarch's opinion on the economy, like Jerome Powell. Compare that to Bitcoin, where Bitcoin has a set issuance schedule. Bitcoin has a peer-to-peer network. Bitcoin just keeps rocking and rolling, doing its own thing, regardless of any intervention from outside forces. So I think in the long run, that obviously is a little bit more stable than just inputs from a random political official who was appointed to the head of the top bank in the US. In terms of Bitcoin's price, I think we just kind of see that Bitcoin is still kind of a meme. Like, as much as we would like it to be a real asset class, as much as we hope it is one day, or at least I do personally, Right now, it's not there. There's not enough people who hold it. There's not enough people who are actively using it. There's not enough people who are actively trading it and hedging using derivative instruments on a bunch of different exchanges. One day we're going to get there, and it's quickly approaching that, like the market cap of gold. But for now, I think just price is kind of a discussion of trading as opposed to just financial policy of the U.S. in general. But tossing it back to you.
Will, not a real asset class? It's not a real, yes, it's a real asset class.
It
It's
is
real,
asset
it's
class,
there,
but it's also
it's new. I get your point. Like it's new. It's like still
yes,
this
yes,
fledgling, area that people are.
it's a
A
baby.
lot of the market still hasn't tapped into. It is a baby. We'll coddle it and make it grow. But yeah, I agree that I definitely see a bright future. And I also, it's a great point about it just becoming more and more decoupled from whatever some elites in an office decide to do with the money supply. It's eventually just going to become so decoupled that people won't even care, I think, in the future
Yep.
what these people are doing, because they're going to be part of this system that is a lot more reliable and predictable, which is the whole reason for Bitcoin's predictable inflation schedule.